They should head back inside. Black Bear laughed a bit, cleared his throat and explained, Easy we, the title of a captain is rather bothersome, you know, so we just left it to this guy Shaman. I'm superior to him when it comes to pure skill though. This really made Shan angry and he replied to Black Bear in a sarcastic manner, You're peeling acorns. Hearing this statement, Iyu was confused but kept his polite smile while looking at them. He then asked Shan curiously, He's peeling acorns? Realizing that Asu was a bit curious and confused by this term, Shan nodded and began explaining, Yeah, we knights sometimes go to the mountains with nothing except our swords to train. We always make the newbies, the ones lacking in skill the most, peel acorns. Because of that we use the phrase peeling acorns to mean someone is bullshitting or getting in the way like newbies do. Listening to this explanation, Black Bear joined in with a prideful manner and said that during the training he never had to peel acorns, adding that people closer to their rank would never have to peel acorns either. Meanwhile, Shan and Cheetah glared at Black Bear with anger and fury. Ieyasu was a bit taken aback by this, but he was still happy for the mercenary knight, Lieutenant. Before forgetting something important, Ieyasu turned to them and said in a cheery manner, Right, we should discuss how we are going to organize our crossing of the Knots Mountains. There are a lot of things we have to think about since it's a journey with a rather big group. Let's discuss this inside. The mercenaries nodded, followed him back to Ieyasu's office, and took their seats while waiting for Ieyasu to start the discussion. As soon as Isai sat down he stated, The price doesn't matter, so let's start by brainstorming items that could come in handy on our journey. Hearing this as the start of discussion, Cheetah suggested that they buy some objects made by magic engineers. Hearing this term made Isu intrigued, and he asked, What are magic engineers? Cheetah nodded and explained clearly, Magic engineers are capable of creating objects that hold the power of magic. For example, the magic of a fire mage could be condensed into a box. When thrown, that object could become a weapon capable of spitting flames. Isu was taken aback by this and gasped in surprise, pondering, does that mean Han's powers could be used as a water bottle and Ed's powers could grow a bamboo forest? Seeing that Ieyasu understood the depth of the situation, Shan then warned, Since your name has become famous because of the gems, there will be a lot of people interested in those gems. Meanwhile, Shan's lieutenants were busy chomping on chocolate and feeling delighted. Izu understood the gravity of the situation and suggested that they should prepare themselves better for the worst. Isu then recalled the wealth he had and thought to himself about the possibility of being in danger. I currently have about 5 kg of gems left, that's about 15 million won. They'll probably expect us to carry around cash as well, so they'll definitely attack us while we're on the road. Shan was also worried about the dangers, so he suggested, Don't tell anyone about our upcoming travels. Furthermore, I suggest setting up a camp for a few days before starting to cross the mountains. Asu was a bit confused about the idea of camping and questioned him. Shan nodded and explained, If someone is really planning something, they'll likely be waiting for us in the mountains, but if we camp for a few days, they will run out of patience. Isu understood the preventive measures that Shan suggested and replied, All right, I'll provide you with the money, purchase anything we might need for our journey. Shaman nodded and answered him in an affirmative manner. Shan and the lieutenants rose from their seats, bowed in front of Isu in gratitude, and expressed their appreciation. Also, thank you for healing my injured comrades, Shan added. Isu smiled, waved off the polite appreciation, and replied, I told you not to worry about it, you guys can go, I'll call you if I need anything. The Shan squad nodded and turned to take their leave, but Shan was a bit hesitant to leave the room. He turned to the chocolate that was still present in the dish, having an inner conflict about whether to take it or not. Finally, he let his desires win, excused himself in front of Ieyasu and took the last piece of chocolate, quite delighted with its taste. As Shan finally took his leave and the door closed behind him, Isu got up from his seat and gazed out of the window, speaking to himself, Wow, we're finally going to go. Meanwhile, in Han's room, Hyen was getting her hair brushed and was finally done with brushing. Morin Hatcher, who was now Hanum's personal maid, exclaimed in excitement, All done. Morin then spoke up in a complimenting manner, How can your skin be so white and fair, Duchess? Maybe it's because you bathe daily in rose-scented water, but you also smell. While complimenting Hyen, Morin suddenly felt ill and swallowed back her vomit so as not to be disrespectful in front of Hyen. This reaction caught Hyen's and Das's attention. Morin then turned to Hyen and apologized to both of them, mentioning, "I haven't been feeling well recently." Seeing this reaction, Hyen then asked her in a guessing manner, "Could you perhaps be pregnant?" Morin was shocked to hear this conclusion and felt a bit worried. Dosi was also curious and came to the same conclusion. Just to be certain, she asked Morin, "When did you have your last period?" Morin answered, "About 2 months ago." Dari nodded and then asked whether her chest hurt. Morin was unable to speak, but nodded in response to Dari's question. After understanding all of Morin's answers, Dari turned to Hyen and stated, "I think she is with child, Duchess." After listening to this news, Hyen smiled brightly and said to Morin in a cheery, jovial manner, "Seth will be delighted to hear the news." Morin smiled and laughed softly with happiness. Agreeing with Hyen, she then rushed to Seth and told him the news about her pregnancy. Seth was really happy, and both of them walked toward the office where Isu was. They knocked on the door and shared the news regarding Morin's pregnancy. Isu was a bit taken aback by the sudden news and spoke in a happy yet slightly jealous voice. "Damn, aren't you guys too fast?" The couple was a bit embarrassed and a pink blush formed on their faces. Isu sighed and congratulated them in an earnest and cheerful manner. Morin was grateful for the congratulations and thanked Isu. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Isu then questioned the couple. "Neither of you have crossed the Knots Mountains before, right?" Seth and Morin shook their heads and admitted they had never crossed the Knots Mountains. Concern and worry filled Isu's heart and he spoke in a serious tone. "Will you be all right crossing the mountains in your state? It won't be easy, and at higher altitudes it will be harder to breathe because of the lack of oxygen. That could endanger the child. I don't mind if you cross the mountains after giving birth." Morin was happy with the offer but politely declined, saying, "Don't worry, sir, God will protect our child." Respecting Morin's wishes, Yi suggested that she take a carriage without luggage and take care of herself properly. Seeing the generous offer, Seth asked in surprise and then said cheerfully, "Will that be all right? I love you, Baron." Morin also replied cheerfully, "I love you too." Isu was happy with their cheerful demeanor but slightly envious. He told them to keep their love between themselves and that they could take their leave. The couple giggled at Isu and then left the room. As soon as the door closed behind them, Isu reminisced about his past. It reminded him of a beautiful lady who sparkled with happiness. His mother speaking to a young Isu, "You should meet and love a woman as pretty as your mother when you grow up," she said. Yusu's father placed a hand on young Yusu's shoulder, giving him a reassuring pat while assuring his wife that he indeed would do that. Then his father added loudly and energetically, "Listen, son. Ever since ancient times, women have fallen for men who are shy when the sun is up but active at night, like your dad." This embarrassed Isu, who yelled to his father in an abashed manner, "Geez, seriously, I'm still a middle schooler." Isu sat there alone, reminiscing about his past. Then he shook his head to clear his thoughts and made his way to his room, saying he had lots of things to do tomorrow. The next morning, as soon as Isu entered the room, colorful ribbons and shiny celebratory paper cutouts rained down on him while everyone screamed cheerfully, "Happy birthday, Baron Isu." He was surprised and asked his staff members whether they had planned the surprise party for him. Meanwhile, the main minds behind it all came forward and announced energetically, "It was Rose and Heian. We organized it together." Rose then retrieved the gift she had prepared for Isu and handed it to him. Seeing the fabulous sword, Isu was excited and mentioned how he had always wanted a sword like that. Rose was happy with his reaction. It was clear he liked the gift. Corky and the staff members then presented Isu with a box filled with letters. Isu was truly grateful and mentioned that he would read them later in private. Hyen then approached the birthday boy and said, "I prepared a small gift as well. Here, lift the cloche." Hyen grew impatient and kept pestering him to hurry up. Izu chuckled and stepped closer to the cloche, lifting it slowly while hearing Hyen's continuous urging. Finally he agreed and opened it completely, revealing a black-brown pound cake with a candle on top. Izu looked a bit confused. Hyen realized he didn't recognize the cake and explained, "It's a soy sauce cake that I baked myself." Isu was taken aback and asked in shock, "Soy sauce?" Thinking he was teasing her, Hyen turned slightly cautious and replied in a suspicious tone, "Yes, don't you think it would be delicious?" Meanwhile, Rose was captivated by the cake and exclaimed in surprise. She then turned to Isu and recalled something she'd heard before. "I heard people blow candles on birthdays in the north. Do you also do your parties like that?" Isu's face darkened with nervousness and fear, since soy sauce is a very salty ingredient, and Hyen had made a cake out of it. Still he nodded and replied to Rose, well, yeah." Rose grew excited and ordered Isu in a friendly manner, "Then let's blow." The candle was lit, and Isu made a wish. He nodded and proceeded to blow the candle out while silently praying to the gods. The polite Hyen shouldn't be allowed to make soy sauce pound cakes anymore. As soon as the flame of the candle was extinguished, everyone present clapped excitedly and shouted in unison, "Happy birthday, Baron." Hyen then quickly suggested that Isu try the cake, eager to know his reaction. Meanwhile, tempted by the cake, Rose spoke up in a famished manner. "I've never tried a soy sauce pound cake. Can I try it too?" Isu was nervous about trying it, and Hyen immediately shut down her request, saying, "No, only Isu can eat this special soy sauce pound cake. I baked a vegetable pound cake, so let's eat that together." Rose's excitement died down at Hyen's denial. She said in a pouting and rejected manner, "That's fine, Isu can have the soy sauce cake. I'll have the vegetable pound cake with the Duchess." Hearing this, a current of electricity ran down Isu's body due to fear before he turned to the vegetable pound cake. Hyen then turned to Isu one last time and patted his shoulder, saying, "Then eat well, Baron." Isu nodded at her, giving her an appreciative wink while thanking her for this amazing gift, realizing the trouble she had gone through just to bake this cake for him. Seeing his genuine smile, Hyen smiled brightly and took her leave to attend to the vegetable cakes, cutting and serving them to everyone. Meanwhile, Hyen, Rose, and the staff members were near the dining table. Isu feared for his life while taking a piece of cake on his fork. He kept glaring at it, imagining the cake as a villain laughing at his cowardice and weak will to eat it. He then took a deep breath and put the cake in his mouth, saying determinedly, "I don't care anymore." He chewed on the cake and tried to savor the flavor. After swallowing, Isu exclaimed in his mind, in mild disgust while trying to hold back the urge to vomit, "It's just bread that tastes like soy sauce." He shivered lightly from the excessive salt and turned toward Lucas, calling for him. Lucas approached Isu, who gestured politely, offering him the cake while trying to mask his disgust so as not to hurt Hyen's feelings. "Try this. There's too much for me to finish alone." Lucas was a bit taken aback and replied in a shaky voice, "But the Duchess specially prepared it for you." Isu nodded, acknowledging that Hyen had prepared it for him, but he still insisted that Lucas try the cake. Lucas finally gave in to Isu's sweet insistence, picked up a fork, and took a bite of the cake, chewing it carefully while enjoying the flavors. Seeing Lucas chew on the cake, Isu watched him with anticipation. After swallowing, Lucas exclaimed delightedly, "It's really delicious." Isu was surprised by this and asked, "Oh, really?" Lucas nodded, adding in a chuffed manner that it had been approved by the chef, the best in all of Araman, so there was no doubt that the cake was indeed delicious. Isu analyzed the cake again, wondering how it could be so tasty, and asked Lucas in confusion, "Seth approved this?" Lucas nodded affirmatively. "Yes, Baron. Any problem?" Isu shook his head nervously and awkwardly. "No, there's nothing wrong. You can go back to enjoying the vegetable cake." Lucas smiled and rushed back to the dining table. Meanwhile, Isu placed the cake on a table and reluctantly ate it, thinking, "I'll eat as much as I can for her." After finishing the whole plate, Isu handed it to one of the maids, his face pale and his stomach full. Seeing the finished plate, Hyen asked curiously, "How was it?" Isu told a white lie, saying it was really tasty, while thinking in mild disgust, I think I can still smell the soy sauce from my nose. Isu then called for Seth. Hearing his name, Seth quickly rushed over, taking a deep breath. Isu asked him in an energetic, cheerful manner, "Is the food ready?" Seth nodded eagerly. Isu then called for Corky and asked if he had invited the guests. Corky nodded politely, replying, "Yes." Isu smiled at them and ordered Seth to bring the food, while announcing in a jovial, loud voice, "Has everyone gathered? Just like you heard, today, October 28th, is my birthday. From now on, this day will be a festival day for our Bloom family, and we shall call it Blooming Day." As these words sank in, everyone cheered and clapped. Isu continued excitedly, "We will eat delicious food and unite with each other. I have prepared different kinds of food, beer, and wine, so enjoy yourselves." This announcement raised the happiness and excitement of the crowd. Everyone thanked and cheered for him, while some screamed in delight. With this final statement, he gestured toward the table, which was completely filled with a variety of exotic dishes, tasty-looking drinks, and breads. The table was fully set, and the feast was ready. He exclaimed in an excited and joyful manner, "Well then, let's get the party started." All the people present in the room were paying attention to Isu and his excited announcement. They all smiled and couldn't resist chuckling, showing their appreciation for this fabulous party. He then gestured for everyone to dig into the food and enjoy themselves. Rose and Heian approached the table, and seeing a new and unique dish in front of her, Rose quickly lifted a piece and exclaimed excitedly, "I want to try this first." Meanwhile, Heian was a bit taken aback by Rose's childish behavior. Isu thought to himself in a mock-teasing, sighing manner, "Still doesn't have the elegance of being the child of a count." Rose smirked and bit into the dish. As she bit, a loud crunch could be heard, and the meat inside was incredibly soft, which surprised her even more. The spices used were another amazing factor in the dish. She then exclaimed in delight, "Ha!" Seeing her reaction, the maid grew worried and approached Rose, asking anxiously, "What's wrong, my lady? Don't you like it?" Observing this, Isu intervened and assured the maid that there were no issues with the dish. He gave a knowing smirk to Rose and, teasingly reading her mind, said, "You're going to ask why the cook at your house can't cook chicken like this, right?" Hearing this, Rose gasped and asked in surprise, "How did you know?" Meanwhile, Heian quietly enjoyed her food, not wanting to interrupt the peaceful dinner. Rose held the chicken and exclaimed in astonishment, "Who could have ever known that fried chicken could be this delicious?" Her face turned from surprise to a frown as she said that the recipe seemed quite simple and that she doubted the chefs in her family had given their best effort while cooking. Rose continued to compliment the fried chicken, saying, "It's so savory, it's way better than the roast chicken." Isu chuckled at her overdramatic reaction to food and continued eating while observing the rest of the staff. His eyes landed on the soldiers, who were also enjoying the food. One of them yelled excitedly, not caring about formalities, "Sir, I'm going to work here until I die, not as a contract worker but as an official one. What do you think about pledging?" Shane nodded, putting the thought aside, but he was confused about the arrangement and asked Lena, "Putting aside that we are also eating, does it make sense that even the servants are eating meat?" Lena scoffed at Shan's naivety and replied pridefully, "All the servants in our family eat meat almost every day." This shocked Shan and his eyes widened at this fact. After analyzing the people around him, seeing everyone happy and enjoying the lavish meal, Shaman poured out his thoughts, "Guess he's that rich." Lena turned to him suspiciously and replied with a note of pride, "Not all rich people take care of their workers like the Baron. Our Baron is a really good man, so do your best." She then mentioned irritatedly that she had her eyes on him and would be watching every move he took. Hearing this, Shaman teased Lena, saying, "Then how about watching my room tonight too?" This infuriated Lena, and she yelled in frustration, "Crazy bastard." Meanwhile, the other staff members laughed and enjoyed this little sweet and sour quarrel. A few days passed, and finally the day to leave the capital arrived. Isu and his family prepared to depart and head toward the Ober estate. As Isu supervised the staff, he was glad they were ready to leave the capital. Corky interrupted Isu, saying that all the packages were loaded into the carriage and ready for departure. He bowed in front of Asu and cautioned, "Be careful on your way there, Baron. You will visit often, right? We will miss you." Isu smiled and assured them he would visit, also telling Corky that if he ever needed anything, he could contact Pangs. Meanwhile, a new butler, experienced and sophisticated, assured Asu that he would do his best for him. Asu gave Pangs an appreciative nod and thought, "Corky introduced him to me, so I guess he is trustworthy." Feeling giddy, Rose announced cheerfully to Asu that they would leave first. Meanwhile, Heian shook her head in defeat and followed Rose. Asu nodded and gave them permission to leave first. Lucas then informed Asu that Mino and Yor had also left the capital. Asu nodded at this information and turned to Lena, saying, "Lena, let us go too." Lena nodded and sat in the same carriage as Asu. In the middle of traveling, Izu stretched his sore muscles and aching bones. He then informed Lena that he was going to take a nap for a while and suggested that she rest too. Izu rummaged through his bag, took out a warm, comfy blanket, and offered it to Lena. Lena was a bit shocked by this offer. Lena accepted the blanket politely and thanked Isu for it. Isu gave her a warm smile and fell asleep, resting his head on the carriage door's frame, sleeping soundly. Meanwhile, Lena was lost in her dreamy world. Seeing Isu's sleeping face, she wondered, so this is what he looks like while sleeping. I wonder how good it would feel to be his woman. After traveling for a while, the carriage came to a halt. The carriage master walked back to the window and informed Ayasu, "Baron, let's stay here for a while." Ayasu nodded and ordered them to prepare the barracks as soon as possible. After instructing the staff, Ayasu stepped off the carriage, stretched a bit, and took a deep breath. Meanwhile, Rose walked up to him and spoke in a complimenting, cheery manner. "The air here is incredible compared to the city." Seeing that Han wasn't there, Ayasu asked Rose, "Where is she?" Rose replied in a bratty manner, "She doesn't want to get down. She said it's too cold outside." Hearing this, Isu called Heian an idiot for not coming out and enjoying the views. Rose chuckled a bit, but then her laughter died down and she asked Isu hesitantly and fearfully, "Baron, I'm a little nervous. We can get there alive, right?" Seeing her vulnerable for the first time, Isu's expression shifted from enjoyment to worry. He wondered if he was putting the people he loved and trusted in danger just because of his wealth. Suddenly a shiny carriage appeared in front of them, shocking Ayasu, Rose, and the soldiers guarding them. Seeing an unidentified carriage, the soldiers stepped forward to protect Ayasu and Rose, yelling in intimidating voices, "Who are you?" The horse pulling the shiny carriage jumped in fear, halting the carriage immediately. Seeing the beautiful carriage, Isu was confused as to why such a high-class carriage was here. The owner of the carriage stepped out, replying to the soldiers in a cheery, reassuring and teasing tone, "Aren't you too mean? Did you plan to leave without me?" Hearing the familiar voice and seeing the same blonde hair that had helped him before, Iu was a bit surprised. Meanwhile, Elena quickly stepped out of the carriage and instructed the soldiers to lower their weapons, as the person in front of them was not a threat. Idro then stepped out of the carriage and revealed himself as the owner of the fabulous carriage. Lena announced to the soldiers, "It's the wizard who's friends with the Duchess." Idro quickly rushed to Izu's side, saying, "You can't leave just like that without me." Izu, perplexed, asked, "How did you?" Idro smiled at Isu and replied jovially, "Haven't you heard from Heian? I am also going with you to travel a little too." Isu nodded at this information and turned toward Heian's carriage, loudly calling for her. "Heian, Idro is here. Did you know about this?" She peeked out of her carriage window, then kept her mouth shut, remembering the times he had troubled her. Feeling irritated, she slammed the window shut with a loud thud. Seeing this quick and rude behavior, Idro cried out hurtfully, "Hey! Aren't you being too mean?" He then rushed toward Heian's carriage, waving back at Iasu and informing him that he was going to her carriage to have a little chat. Seeing Idro's excited and unpredictable behavior, Azu smiled warmly but was still taken aback by his sassy encounter as Idro entered Heian's carriage. Rose was quite intrigued by this sudden interaction and placed her hand on Iasu's shoulder. Iasu, confused by the sudden touch, flinched a little. Rose smirked and teased him in an annoying manner. Baron, what's up with those two? What's their relationship? Seeing her dancing and irritating him, Iu gave her an annoyed glare and replied, I don't know, while still sensing that there was something between Edro and Hyen. Rose continued pestering, saying, that elf is the most handsome elf I have ever seen in my whole life. Unable to contain her excitement, Rose rushed off to Hyen's carriage to introduce herself and make acquaintances with Edro. Meanwhile, Isu was left in shock, thinking about Edro's sudden arrival. He pondered, even if Hyen did say okay, I wouldn't have expected him to really follow. Well, I could get some help from Edro in some situations. Hans called out to Isu, informing him that he could move to the barracks now. Isu gave Hans an appreciative smile and walked toward the barracks, thinking deeply and worrisomely, we should sleep outside for 3 days, right? I hope nothing much happens. Seeing the tense and worried look on Isu's face, Hans grew a bit concerned and spoke in a carefree manner. Mr. Isu, do you have any concerns? At this, Lucas interrupted and corrected Hans' way of addressing Isu, saying, Baron. Hans quickly changed his carefree tone to a polite and formal one, and addressed Isu as Baron. Isu then walked toward both Hans and Lucas, and expressed his worry, it's just that I'm concerned we might come across bandits. Realizing the reason behind Isu's worry, Hans stepped forward, proudly hitting his chest while assuring both Lucas and Isu that if the bandits ever dared to step in the vicinity of this area, without even caring for his life, Hans would jump in front to protect both Lucas and Isu. Lucas was a bit surprised by Hans's performance, and got slightly irritated when he included him. He replied to Hans in an annoyed manner, why did you include me, just protect the Baron? This made Hans a bit sad, and he tried to counter Lucas's words but was stopped by Isu, which concluded the mini-fight between Hans and Lucas while Isu was comforting them. Then a sharp arrow shot from an unknown location, flew toward them and landed dangerously close to Isu's barracks, threatening and alarming everyone in the area. Seeing the arrow, the soldiers immediately raised an alarm, yelling loudly, an ambush, we have enemies. Suddenly more arrows were shot, aiming at Isu and the staff members beside him with the intention of injuring them. The arrows traveled incredibly fast, which made Lena's worry rise and she called out in fear, Baron. Meanwhile, the soldiers instructed the people to stop moving and lower themselves flat to the ground to protect themselves from the arrows. Seeing the arrows heading toward him, Isu rummaged in his pocket to find the protective capsule he had prepared for such events during their travels. Seeing the urgency, Hans stepped forward and stood wide to protect Isu and Lucas from the incoming arrows. Seeing this, Isu screamed in terror. Hans! As his name was called out, an arrow hit with incredible speed and force, piercing Hans's shoulder. He winced in pain but stood strong to protect the people he adored. Isu's mind shook, but he gathered his nerves and threw the capsule to form a protective shield around them, preventing further injuries to himself and his staff. As the shield formed, Isu quickly knelt beside Hans and asked in a worried tone, Hans, are you all right? Even in extreme pain, Hans turned his head and assured Isu, I'm fine. Lucas then instructed Isu in an alarming manner to stay down as they did not know the bandits' location. The soldiers quickly rushed beside Isu with their shields, yelling loudly, everyone, raise your shields around the Baron. Ensu then shouted in a loud voice to ensure he was heard, get in here everyone, hurry. Meanwhile, Lucas kept an eye on people who were in danger. His eyes landed on a woman in the vicinity of the arrows, which could pierce her heart. Lucas yelled her name, Kenna. Meanwhile, Kenna was frightened. Her legs became weak from fear and she couldn't get up from the floor to protect herself as an arrow headed straight toward her. A tree branch grew and struck the arrow, diverting its path and protecting Kenna from injury. Startled, she fell back onto her butt, the adrenaline in her body subsiding. Adro then formed more thick branches, his face strict and cold, eyes piercing blue, anger evident. Seeing the arrow deflected, Kenna relaxed, her fear subsiding. Sean quickly rushed to carry her to safety. Adro then screamed as he approached the shield, making sure Isu and the staff were safe by forming a protective layer around the area. Sean quickly carried Kenna to safety and stood behind the soldiers, instructing them to hold the shield tightly. Meanwhile, a barrier of trees and water formed around the area, shocking Isu. Hien released her mana, and the immense water surrounded the trees. She guided the water to act as support, reducing the arrow's velocity and preventing further injuries. With a flick of her wrists and precise mental instructions, the water solidified, forming an even stronger shield. Seeing this, Izu quickly turned to her and called out in shock, "Hien!" She walked toward Izu and assured the soldiers, "Adro and I made a barrier with our magic. You guys can lower your shields now." The soldiers relaxed and placed their shields down to catch their breath. Meanwhile, Izu was confused and furious, wondering who would dare attack them and why. Shan remained calm, watching the arrows with a clear mind. Counting the number of arrows, his face turned into a frown as he concluded that there were at least 50 archers. That meant there were at least 100 enemies, a number he had never seen in any bandit group. Shan then came up with a plan and turned to Edro and Heian, asking, "Wizards, how long can you maintain the barrier?" Shan answered without hesitation. For an hour, thinking to himself, Isu realized that would be enough time to reorganize. He then stated in a polite but stern manner, "I'm worried about the carriage being left outside. At this rate, they'll be joyfully taking our things. Let's get ready to fight. I hope you can help us fight." Understanding the grave situation and the danger posed to Isu, Adro nodded and agreed to help the soldiers fight. Meanwhile, Heian was also ready to defend against the bandits in the mountains. Far from Isu's location, a man rushed to the bandit leader and informed him in a worried tone, "Boss, this is different from what you said. You didn't tell us they'd be accompanied by wizards. What should we do?" The leader of the bandits nodded, understanding the situation they were in, but remembered something about the wizards and assured his worried comrade, "I've heard that wizards can't use magic indefinitely. Their mana will run out soon, so we just need to wait a little longer." With a wide grin, the bandit leader then explained in a greedy and avaricious manner, "If we succeed with this mission, we will get at least 30,000 gold." His smirk grew wider and more sinister as he recalled the conditions given to him. "You can take everything you steal, but kill as many as you can and hurt them as much as possible. That will be enough." The bandit leader, full of himself, belittled Izu's situation, doubting his identity. He thought to himself, "I heard he has millions of gold and does jewelry business. We'll make this one big score and live the rest of our lives peacefully." Realizing that by now the wizard's mana might have run out and the protective shield could be gone, the bandit leader yelled in greed and excitement, cheering his fellows, "Everyone, go toward the carriage." The bandits shouted their war cry and rushed to steal and pillage all the fortunes. Seeing the bandits approaching, Shan prepared his soldiers to protect the wealth and move the important items to safety inside the barrier. Meanwhile, inside the barrier, Hans was still wincing in pain, blood pouring from his wound. Seeing this, Isu yelled in a worried and scared manner, "Hans, are you all right? Why did you do that?" Seeing the grave injury, Lucas was shocked and scared for Hans. Seeing their worried expressions, Hans laughed nervously, still wincing in pain, and assured them, "Both of you are okay, so it's fine." Seeing Hans still in pain and barely holding back his urge to scream, Asu's worry rose again, and he scolded Hans, "What are you talking about? Lena, take a look at Hans." Lena quickly rushed beside Asu and knelt down to examine the injury on Hans's shoulder. After proper analysis and seeing that it hadn't hit any vital joints, Lena broke off the arrow while instructing Hans in a strict voice, "Don't pull it out. Stay like this. It could bleed further if you pull it out." Realizing his heroic actions had backfired, Hans nodded, a few tears of disappointment falling from his eyes. Shan and his squad were ready to take down the bandit squad and charged with profound determination and anger. A fierce battle ensued, filled with loud war cries, yelling and grunting. Swords clashed, some were heavily injured, while others sustained mild injuries. The battle went on for a long time, but the result was predictable. Shan's mercenary squad, now reinforced by Isu Blom's royal guards, emerged victorious. Seeing the end of the battle, Elena turned to the battlefield and exclaimed in relief, "The battle is almost over. They're big in numbers but weak." Hearing this, Hien felt relieved and in a tired and exhausted manner while shielding herself from the sunlight said, "That's a relief. I'll take some rest first." Seeing Hyen weakened and pale from using a large amount of mana, Lena quickly rushed to support her. Hyen then called out to Adro. Meanwhile, Adro, pale and very weak from exhausting his mana, fell to the ground with a loud thud. Despite her own fatigue and pale appearance, Hyen still had the energy to walk and stand straight. Seeing Adro's lazy action, she asked in an irritated manner, "Don't you have any pride?" Adro, so exhausted that his voice lacked life, replied, "Look at the situation, I'm really tired." Both wizards were completely drained, and the magic they had used was gone. Hyen's water magic evaporated, while Adro's tree branches sank back into the soil. Seeing them exhausted but still standing, Isu intervened and assured them that the battle was over. Meanwhile, Hans was pale from the arrow attack, and Lucas, being a strict brother, scolded him for not moving enough. Sean then interrupted the casual conversation, calling for Isu and dragging the captured bandits before him. Seeing the captives, Isu's anger boiled. He gritted his teeth, knowing Hans had been injured and that there was a possibility he could have lost his hand forever. Controlling himself, Isu asked the captives in a low, threatening voice, his eyes cold and filled with fury, "Who ordered this?" The bandit leader was a bit taken aback by Isu's question, and with a shaky voice lied, "What do you mean? We just heard that you are rich, so we were trying to rob the carriage." Meanwhile, the comrades of the bandit leader, fearing for their own lives, blurted out the truth. "That guy told us there was something big and hired us." Another bandit agreed, "Yes, we just followed him here." Shen wasn't convinced by this story. With a suspicion-filled voice, he asked the bandits again. "Nothing unusual." He then firmly pulled the rope and added, "You should think carefully about what you're saying. If you speak the truth, your lives might be spared, depending on your answer." Realizing the weight of Shen's words, the hired bandits, terrified for their lives, finally confessed. One yelled, "We saw him go to the village with a lot of money." This news shocked the other hired bandits, and one of them exclaimed in surprise and fear, "What? Without telling us?" The hired bandits were furious at the man who had employed them. The bandit leader, gritting his teeth in anger, tried to assert control, but the fear of execution still weighed heavily on them. Shan yelled for them to calm down. After hearing the proper reasons and answers, Isu repeated his words in a cold, calm manner, sending shivers down the bandits' spines. "You received a large amount of money from the village. That can only mean someone hired you." Listening to Isu's prediction, Shan was impressed and silently agreed with him. Isu then went quiet, though his eyes burned with fury. In a suspicion-filled voice he thought, "There is someone I can think of who would do such a thing." He then turned toward Lena and asked in a stern yet polite manner, "Lena, what do you think we should do about this situation?" Lena calmly analyzed the situation and concluded that they should change their location immediately, as they were still within the bandits' reach. She also assured Isu that they would find the person responsible for the attack as soon as possible. Shan bowed in front of Isu and informed him, "I'll take care of the bandits who dared attack the Bloom family." Meanwhile, the bandits were shocked. Having expected Shan to release them, they questioned him about their freedom, but Shan, with a cold and terrifying voice, slammed their request down with a strict no. After spending some time dealing with the bandit squad, Shan returned to Isu's side to report, "We were told to go to Demarian, 33rd Street if something happened." Isu was stunned by this information and asked how he had found out. Shan nodded and replied politely while lying about his methods. "The captives told me when I asked politely. I'll take 10 men and send them back. We also have to look for the horse that ran there." Isu nodded and complied with Shan's request, assuring him they would follow his instructions. Isu then turned to the staff members, ordering them to pack their belongings and reorganize everything to shift their location. When Akriosu noticed Hans's pale and exhausted face, he yelled in terror and worry. "Hans!" Lucas was beside Hans, supporting him through the painful experience. Akriosu asked Reina to examine the injury. She confirmed it was poisoned and added that the arrowhead had been coated with toxin. Akriosu questioned if she had brought antidote capsules and commanded her to administer them immediately. The antidote capsules, created by magic engineers with the help of healing mages, were quite expensive. each costing over 300 gold. Isu thought to himself that it wasn't the time to worry about money. Hans and the others were given the antidotes. Isu asked Hans about his health, and Hans replied that thanks to the medicine Isu provided, he felt better. Isu was relieved and made a mental note to take responsibility for the incident later in the evening. They cremated the 3 dead people. Sean thought to himself that there had been 5 injured people in total. If they had pressed forward, those injured would have likely died from blood loss. Despite Isu's gentle appearance, Sean realized he possessed a strong resolve and must be carefully considering his next steps. Meanwhile, a woman observing Isu and the others from behind the trees thought about what she should do. Quietly, she sneaked into a tent, planning to take advantage of the confusion. As she entered, Reina asked, "Who's there?" The woman revealed herself as an elf with purple hair and said, "It's me. You haven't forgotten me already." Reina called her mage. The elf explained that she had come to see Heian and requested some time to speak with her alone. Heian questioned her presence and asked if she had been following her. The elf replied, "No, it's not because of Ilona." Heian remarked that the elf had said she would tag along with her, no matter how prestigious Lady Priscilla might be. It was a bit much. Then Priscilla replied that she acknowledged it and apologized for it. Heian again repeated her question, asking why exactly Priscilla had been following her. Priscilla, embarrassed, lightly punched the back of her own head in a silly manner, and revealed, "I made a big show about staying at the Imperial Palace for the greater good, but I was too curious to hold back, so I planned to take a look at the palace and then return." Priscilla thought to herself that it was the first time she had felt such a feeling of peace, as all her worries had vanished. She had been exhausted from the guild's dangers and the responsibility of finding freedom for her people, and she just wanted a brief moment of release. Priscilla noted that seeing the injured people, she thought her help might be required. Heian replied that she could accompany her. Priscilla questioned whether it would be okay, and Heian replied that she would inform the Baron that they had actually planned to travel together but had been delayed. Priscilla remarked that if Heian would do that for her, she would be grateful. Heian then noted that honestly she couldn't fully trust her, as Priscilla had previously sold her own kind to the Emperor and had followed Heian without her permission. Priscilla, buried under the stones of guilt, replied that if Heian could not trust her completely, she would give her a necklace. Heian asked, "What is it?" Priscilla replied, "It's an elf's tear life, a stone created by condensing the amniotic fluid shed when an elf is born. It is rumored to grant a single escape from death. The Emperor always carries one with him." Heian remembered that her stepmother had sold her mother's necklace to the royal family. Priscilla then asked, "Is this enough for you?" Heian replied, "Yes." Priscilla asked if she was really going to take it and added that she would return it later. Heian replied, "Who knows? It depends on Lady Priscilla." Priscilla remarked that Heian was more ruthless than she had expected. Heian replied that it was Priscilla who had given her the opportunity. Heian then noted that they should head over to the injured people, as Priscilla healed them one by one. Isu and Edib, observing her from a distance, noted that not all mages were close with each other, so why hadn't she come together with the others? Ed responded, "What is Akriosu talking about? I've never even met that elf before." Isu realized that not all mages knew each other. Ed added, "Having a healing mage here gives me peace of mind. I'll finally be able to sleep well tonight." Meanwhile, Kenna was yelling that she shouldn't have tagged along and that it was absurd that 3 people had died. Lucas screamed back at her, asking if she was blaming the Baron. Kenna replied that she was being honest. She continued, "If we had stayed in the city, none of this would have happened." Lucas remarked, "You're really the worst." Hans, just observing, remained quiet. Lucas verified that the Baron hadn't forced her to tag along and that Ashu himself had said many times it was fine if she didn't want to cross the Knots Mountains with them. Kenna responded, "Izab told us it would be tough, not that we would die." Lucas yelled at her to stop. Kenna, begging for scraps, yelled at him, asking if he had just said that to her. Lucas replied that he had more to say, and then Kenna was slapped. It was the head maid who had slapped her. Kenna cried, devastated. The head maid screamed at her, berating her. She accused Kenna of letting a few meals with the Lord go straight to her head. The head maid asked if Kenna realized how expensive the antidote capsule she had taken earlier was. She explained that the capsule was so expensive that Kyle would need to scrub floors for 300 years to afford it. Kenna stood silently, ashamed. The head maid added, "Who do you think paid for the cloak, socks and moccasins you were wearing?" She concluded, "Once we descend the mountain, Kenna's fate will be decided." Early the next morning, as the sun shone brightly, Kenna pointed something out to the MC and exclaimed, "Look over there." She revealed that it was her family crest and instructed the group to stop. Excited, she ran down from the carriage and leaped into her father's arms. Joyfully, her father enrexed her tightly and asked if she was hurt. She replied cheerfully, "Not at all, I'm completely fine." Kenna then asked her father why he had brought so many supply wagons. He explained that he had heard about the attack and had come prepared with extra supplies. Smiling, Kenna remarked that she had expected as much from her father. She expressed her desire to ride in her father's wagon, but he gently declined, explaining that he needed to speak with the MC first. The MC was taken aback by this. Turning to the MC, the Count said, "Let's move." The MC responded with a simple yes. Inside the cart, the MC apologized to the Count for causing so much trouble. The Count dismissed the MC's concerns, saying, "How could it be the Baron's fault?" He further added that such incidents happen when crossing the mountains. The MC then asked if he suspected the Central Force to be behind it. The Count replied that the Shonen family had spies planted on the Pat side, and that he had heard rumors that the Baron's mercenaries were keeping an eye on Number 33, Demarian Street. They also had various agents stationed there. The Count reassured the MC that they would soon find out who was behind it. The MC nodded in agreement. While traveling in the carriage, the MC noted the road and asked the Count, "Wasn't that road unpaved before?" The Count replied that he had pressured them to pave it. The MC said he didn't want them to travel on a rough road for 2 or more weeks. He sighed in relief and said that when he returned to his territory he would ensure proper roads were built immediately. The Count smiled and said that was a great idea. He then asked if they should head straight to the Ober territory. The MC replied affirmatively, "Of course." As they entered the Ober territory, the MC glanced out of the cart and remarked, "We're in the Ober territory now." Karaki corrected the MC, saying they should call it Bloom's territory from now on. Karaki looked outside and remarked that it was the perfect place for a fresh start, as the weather was warm too. The MC admitted that he had been worried he might have brought them to a place that was too rural. Karaki reassured him, saying that even if they had stayed in the city it would have been hard to live decently without the MC. Thanks to him they were in this warm region. According to Karaki, they were lucky. The MC smiled and said they should take things slow and steady there. However, Karaki chuckled, knowing the MC wouldn't do that. Laughing, the MC replied, "Then we should get started right away." Looking out again, the MC noticed multiple people gathered around the supply area. Karaki responded, "There must be dozens of soldiers there." The MC asked, "Has Count Meddub's management been withdrawn?" Karaki confirmed, yes, starting from today they would follow the Bloom family's orders. He added that he had heard the Count was still unmarried but incredibly wealthy. Karaki then suggested that they should greet the residents in front of the manor. The MC agreed. As the MC stepped out, the gathered people welcomed him warmly, addressing him as Lord and kneeling before him. They asked him to take care of them from then on. Surprised by the gesture, the MC replied humbly, "Likewise, I look forward to working with all of you." The MC felt a sense of renewal and thought to himself that something new was beginning. Turning to his people he said, "You've all worked hard to get here, we should head inside and unpack." They responded enthusiastically, "Yes." Suddenly, Heian approached the MC along with Priscilla, saying she had nothing to do and would join him. The MC replied that he didn't have anything to do either, so he would go along with her. However, their conversation was interrupted by Ed, who asked the MC where he was heading and demanded to join them too. Then Ed noted Priscilla, and asked for the name of the healer, as they should at least introduce themselves. The MC suggested exchanging names to avoid confusion. The healer, however, coldly replied, "My name is Priyula. You should remember that for now." Observing her demeanor, the MC thought to himself, "Why do mages have so many secrets and act so aloof?" It reminded him of when he first met Heian. The scene shifted to a beautiful waterfall. The group marveled at the surroundings, with lush greenery, vibrant flowers and a serene lake. Priscilla was mesmerized by the view and jumped into the lake. Ed turned to Heian and asked, "Is it alone?" She confirmed, "Yes, it is." Ed expressed his eagerness to explore the lake and jumped in. The MC asked Heian if she was going along, but she replied that there was something she needed to ask first. She asked, "Can the elves stay here?" The MC replied, "Of course. You don't need to worry, just make yourself comfortable." Heian added that if all the elves gathered there, it could become dangerous. The MC, smiling, responded that if things got risky she wouldn't just sit by and watch. Heian nodded, saying, "Of course not." The MC concluded, "All right then." As they both looked at the pool where others were swimming and enjoying themselves, the MC told Heian that from then on, that hill and the surrounding areas were designated as the elf zone, and they were free to use it. Heian smiled and asked, "Are you sure that's okay?" The MC replied, "Yes." Heian then remarked that she wouldn't forget his kindness and that if he ever needed help with magic, she would assist him any time. The MC smiled and replied, "No, there's no need to force yourself. I don't want to become a dictator." He shook his head and explained that what he desired was honest magic, but humans' greed knows no bounds. Depending on magic might turn him into a slave to power. Yen replied, "No," and then told the MC that the emperor exploited their weaknesses and forced them before, but this time they owed him a debt, so it was only right to repay it. Then Heian looked toward the waterfall and explained to the MC that Elf Hill had a depth and meaning far greater than he might realize. The MC asked, "Wouldn't it be nice to clean the area and build something there?" Yen agreed and responded that he didn't need to worry. She further added that she would stay within the designated area. The MC furiously replied, "Of course not," and told him that she had instructed Ed to sleep in the room next door. The MC frowned. "Why are you suddenly bringing up Ed?" Yen clarified, "Ed isn't my type." With that, the MC calmed down. Yen then chuckled and teased the MC, asking, "Why do you like him so much?" Embarrassed, the MC stammered and replied, "When did he ever say that, and why are you laughing?" With a bright smile, Heen replied, "Even without overthinking it, he is amazing." Hearing this, the MC felt unexpectedly happy. He asked himself if he had always been that simple-minded. Extending his hand to Hein in a kind gesture, the MC said, "We should live well together here." Hein replied, "Yes," and grabbed his hand firmly. Later in his office, the MC pondered over the dimensional gate. "What should I do with the last remaining gate? Should I just open it in the basement?" He thought, "If I manage to connect the basement to Elf Hill, it could provide safe access during emergencies." He then looked around and realized that this place was incredibly extravagant. Karuki exclaimed, "Look at that beautiful chandelier, the fresh glass windows and the stunning marble floors." The MC realized that Karuki loved it, and that the previous owner had spared no expense. Just then someone knocked on the door and announced that the architect the MC had mentioned had arrived. Karuki opened the door for the architect, who greeted the MC saying, "MC, as Lord Bloom." The MC told him to have a seat. The MC thought to himself that the first step as a lord was planning the city. He began discussing his plans, saying they needed to start road construction immediately, beginning from Medit State in the east. Their top priority was paving the road to Ober State in the west. He further added that they also needed to establish a marketplace around the Lord's Manor, along with a public well and a library. The MC emphasized the necessity of careful planning for the plaza and other public facilities. The architect agreed. The MC continued, adding plans to build 3 mansions nearby for the nobles and near the lake southwest of the manor. The architect was puzzled, as he couldn't see a lake on the map. The MC assured him that the water mage would create the lake for them. He continued by saying that around the lake they would plant a sunflower garden. The buildings would be constructed with white bricks and blue roofs, keeping a consistent uniform style. The architect raised a concern. "Blue paint is quite expensive." The MC replied, "Since it's a tourist area, we should at least invest that much. Also, along the river we will need workshops or public facilities with water wheels." The architect said he would take his leave and get started. The MC responded, I will be counting on you. The MC then called Lucas and asked, what tax rate did the Medici family use? Lucas replied, they typically collect 25% of the harvest from tenant farmers, including property and defense taxes. It's about 30%. The MC raised an eyebrow. 30% of the harvest, Karaki interjected. Only 30%. The MC asked, is there a problem? Karaki explained that the typical tax rate for peasants in the Man Empire is over 50%. Lucas added, that's why people respect Count Medici. Additionally, they only require 2 days of labor service per week, whereas the Pat family demands 3 or 4 days. The MC decided they would follow a similar model to the Medici family. Koki expressed concern saying, if we lower the tax rate and reduce labor service it might cause issues. The MC reassured him, we would still collect 30% of the harvest. If the harvest increases, won't the tax revenue naturally increase too? Koki asked if the MC already had a plan. The MC nodded. Exactly, we will use the Nora farming method instead of the traditional 3-field system. He further explained that in the 3-field system, 1/3 of the land is left fallow, reducing income. With the Nora method, he continued, we'll divide the land into 4 sections for crop rotation, eliminating fallow fields. Lucas and Karaki were impressed, smiling as they listened. The MC continued, instead of leaving land empty, we will plant crops that restore soil fertility. It's called the 4-crop rotation method. A knock on the door interrupted their conversation. Salman entered, announcing that Cheetah had returned with information. The MC told him to let them in, and asked, how did it go? Salman replied, they captured him but couldn't uncover who was behind it. The MC furiously remarked on the client's identity. Cheetah revealed that he was a merchant who traded between Manhwa harbor and the city. The MC considered that linking it solely to the Pait family was a bit of a stretch. The MC asked his men if they had made contact with Count Medici and the people of Cronin. One of his men replied, yes. According to the spy planted by the Cronin family, he has met with Count Piet multiple times. The MC thought to himself that there still wasn't solid proof that the Piet family was behind it. He reconsidered whether he should let the matter slide. Then he told his men, you've done well, take some rest. They replied in unison, yes, Lord, and left the room. The MC then asked if all the village chiefs had gathered. The chiefs greeted him respectfully. The MC told them, please have a seat. As everyone sat down, the MC said, getting straight to the point, he began asking if they had brought the family registries he had requested for each village. The chiefs confirmed, yes, my lord. The MC explained that the population of Hongam was approximately 1,300, with 12 villages of about 100 people each. From then on, they would conduct a census every year. He further added that only those registered would receive the benefits as residents of this territory. The MC expected them to compile the data. The MC thought to himself, they must be wondering why I bother registering them if it just means more taxes. He added aloud that they planned to start providing soap on a regular basis. The village chiefs paused, clearly mesmerized. The MC continued. Each person would receive half a pound of soap, so a family of 4 will receive 2 leb. The oil for the soap will be extracted from sunflower seeds, which should be sufficient. The chiefs listened intently as the MC explained further. Currently soap costs 1 gold and 5 silver per pound, a significant expense for farmers. However, anyone caught reselling the soap will face severe punishment. Traditionally, nobles impose high taxes on soap to prevent commoners from using it, but here it will be distributed to everyone. The chiefs nodded in understanding. The MC emphasized, that's right, just by washing your hands regularly, you can prevent many illnesses. At that moment, Lucas entered, carrying books. He handed them to the chiefs, saying these are written by the Lord himself, use them wisely. The chiefs flipped through the books, amazed by the content. Lucas explained, these books include guides on herbs, farming techniques for various crops, and even recipes. They also detail the effects of various herbs and ingredients. He then asked, does anyone here not know how to read? Several chiefs raised their hands. Lucas stated firmly, from now on anyone who can't read will not be allowed to remain a village chief. I recommend participating in the free literacy program. One chief protested, saying, "It's unreasonable, we've managed just fine without reading." Lucas shot back. "Then step down from your position as village chief." "What's the problem? The program is free." The chief fell silent. The MC stepped in, saying, "From now on we will measure the harvest of each village every year. The village with the best harvest yield, I plan to reward the chief of that village." The chiefs were surprised, and asked if it was true. The MC assured them, "I never go back on my word, you should all work together." The meeting concluded, and the chiefs left. The MC's eyes sparkled as he turned to Lucas and Karuki. "Now we should discuss issuing a lottery." Karuki and Lucas seemed intrigued. The MC elaborated. "There will be 3 types of lotteries. First, a citizen-only lottery. Each ticket costs 5 copper, and it will be drawn monthly. The prize is 100 gold and only registered citizens can claim it," he continued. Second, a general lottery. Tickets cost 1 silver and 15% of sales will be taxed for operational costs. This is open to anyone, with a prize of 100 gold. Lastly, he explained, the instant lottery will cost 1 copper per ticket. The first prize is 20 gold. The second prize is 1 gold. And the third prize is 5 copper, redeemable immediately. To prevent counterfeits, each ticket will have a unique mark with a high-end seal. Lucas excitedly said he wanted to use his savings to buy tickets. The MC replied, "Everything in moderation is good." He then said they should think more about the winning methods. Lucas asked, "What if people find out someone won?" The MC replied, "Winners should collect their prizes quietly." Lucas then asked, "Can the prize money be spent however they want?" The MC smiled. "Of course." Karuki interrupted, "Enough," and apologized. The MC waved it off, saying it was understandable. Shifting focus, the MC asked, "How is road construction progressing?" Karuki replied, "It's going smoothly. There should be no issues reaching Medit City tomorrow." The next day, as the MC and Karuki rode in a cart, Karuki remarked that the pavement was wonderful. The MC nodded, recalling they had spent a lot of money, about 2 billion. He estimated it would take 5 years to recover the cost through tolls, but as it was his land and his road, that was what mattered. As they arrived, they were informed that Count Meditz had arrived. The MC greeted Count Meditz warmly. The Count responded casually, saying that even formalities between them should be relaxed. The MC smiled, understood, and dismissed their attendants. He thought, what does the Cone want to discuss? The Count began, "It's time to start putting pressure on the central power in earnest. My family has been expanding our territories to the northwest. You must be aware of this." The MC nodded in agreement. The Count continued, "I would like you to manage the route from Bloom territory to the seaport. After catching your breath, we will gradually absorb the Ober territory to the west of Bloom." The MC was taken aback and responded cautiously, "Isn't that area currently managed by Count's relatives?" The Count, surprised, asked, "Do you know the population of Ober?" The MC replied, "A bit over 10,000. The Count agreed, "Indeed, Ober is a well-managed town." The MC added, "If it's overseen by us, it would grow even more." The Count smiled, replying, "I might be putting a bit of pressure on you again." The MC casually denied it while sipping his tea. The Count elaborated, "I tend to be a bit impatient, but I hope you understand. I plan to proceed gradually over the next 5 years, so take your time to think it over." The MC nodded in agreement. The Count then added, "There's someone I would like to introduce to you." The MC asked, "Who might that be?" The Count gestured toward the door and said, "Come in." To the MC's surprise, it was the merchant Seal. Shocked, the MC asked, "How could he come all the way here?" The merchant smiled and said, "We meet again." The Count invited Seal to sit. Still puzzled, the MC asked, "Is this true?" The Count explained. The other day, Siam came directly to his territory as he planned to start using Poitin port instead of Mao. MC turned to the merchant for confirmation. Cam nodded, explaining that moving forward, about half of the trade ships departing from the Meme Empire would use Poitin port. The Count interjected that he had heard MPA City had doubled the port taxes. MC was shocked. The Count added that they must be desperate. While MC was having tea, it was explained that the price of pepper kept rising, and the Paytney family was under pressure. Forced to pay high taxes, they increased taxes at MPA port. MC then asked Siam if even with double taxes, it wouldn't still be profitable to use MPA port. Siam explained that financially, yes, considering the long round trip between MPA and Porang, along with the time and manpower needed, it made more sense to pay higher taxes and use MPA port. Then Siam added, however, that in business, money is not always the top priority. This time, he had made his decision based on people rather than profit. The Count smiled and replied that he was deeply moved by the Baron's hospitality during the last international market. That was why he liked MC. With that, 20% of the trade ships that once used Monoport were now coming to Puaning. The Count remarked that the economic impact of this change would be unimaginable. Times were changing. The scene shifted to the marketplace. MC stood by a window observing the bustling activity below. "What is all this?" he asked. Kruki replied, "It's the work of May Jedro." Surprised, MC said he needed to check it out himself. As he stepped outside, Edro greeted him enthusiastically. MC commented that Edro looked much healthier these days, thanks to Elan. Edro replied with a laugh. MC remarked that even checking the crops once or twice a week was enough. Edro laughed again but said that if he sat idle, Hein would scold him. He even imitated Hein's voice saying, "If you're just going to be lazy, you might as well leave." Changing the subject, MC asked about Lady Priscilla. Edro replied that she had stayed for a week and then returned. He added that he had been creating something new. He had thought of designing it with a bamboo grove and asked what MC thought about it. MC responded that it was wonderful, but warned him not to overwork himself. Edro smiled, clasping his hands together, and remarked that pushing himself was nonsense. MC would never understand the joy of being with a clone. "It's like happiness overflowing with energy," he said. MC smiled, and replied that he felt unlucky to have been born human. Edro chuckled and bid him farewell. Afterward, Msad noticed someone in the field. He squinted, recognized the figure and called out to Hans, asking what he was doing out there. Hans replied that he had noticed there wasn't enough help for field work, so he decided to pitch in. Msag yelled that even if Hans had fully recovered, what if there were lingering side effects? Hans dismissed the concern, saying that incident was a long time ago and there was absolutely no problem. Msay pushed him back toward the house, insisting he stay indoors. He thought to himself that even with treatment, there could still be other consequences from that incident. Besides, Hans was still figuring things out. Sighing, Msay went to the kitchen and instructed the chefs to watch closely. One chef asked what he was preparing. Smiled and said that since everyone was having a hard time adjusting to the new place, he thought of making something to give them a boost. Seth remarked, "Does that mean some kind of meat dish?" Msak replied, "Not just any meat, it's samgyetang." Msay instructed that the first step was to put various ingredients inside a cleaned chicken. Next, the hot ingredients needed to be added to the pot and brought to a boil, ensuring the heat was not too high. After that, the chicken should be placed in the pot and simmered on medium heat for about 40 minutes. Once fully cooked, it would be ready. When the group sat at the table enjoying the meal, Hans expressed his joy, exclaiming that it was amazing and so delicious. Muxi, pleased, asked if Hans liked it. Hans enthusiastically replied, "Absolutely. Yes," and said MC was a real genius when it came to cooking. But then in a depressed tone, Hans added that although he had followed along confidently, it felt like he was always the one benefiting from MC. MC raised his voice asking what he was talking about and reminded him that he had literally risked his life to save him. Hans was deeply moved upon hearing this. With determination, Hans declared that he would make sure to eat well and do his best from then on. MC, concerned, commented that he shouldn't push himself too hard. The chef then approached MC to inform him that a separate meal had been prepared. MC insisted on eating with Hans instead, and requested the chef to call Hein over. The chef agreed. When Hein arrived and sat down, she looked curiously at the dish and asked, "What is that pale-looking chicken submerged in water?" MC explained that it was called samgyetang. He told her it was hot so she should let it cool before eating and that she could dip it into a bit of salt for extra flavor. As Hein tasted it, she shared with MC saying, "Eat it, my arm hurts, so you need to hurry up." MC asked why she was suddenly feeding him like that. Hein replied, "They say it's okay to feed someone you care about." MC choked at her words and asked who told her that. She answered that Edro did. In an angry tone, MC asked, "Did you feed him like that too?" Hein calmly replied, "No, he's not my type. You're the first." Relieved, Me said, "All right, from now on you're only allowed to feed me like that." Hein asked, "Why is that?" MC flustered, replied, "Because, is she supposed to like just one person, or is she planning to like a bunch of people?" Hein retorted, "But he has lots of people he likes, like my GJ, my Lucas, my Hans." Realizing she was jealous, MC thought to himself that he might have been hers only from then on. Hein then suggested that they should take a walk after finishing eating. She had set up an open-air bath and built a hearth to heat the water. Knowing MC's fondness for open baths, he replied that he loved them. As they walked, Hein linked her arm with MC's. MC realized she always clung her arm with his whenever they went for a walk. When MC saw the pond, he noticed it was large. Hein said she would get the water ready and summoned her magical powers. Suddenly, hot water gushed out, causing Hein to yell, claiming that demon water was coming out of the ground. MC quickly calmed her down and instructed her to channel the water into the open area. Hein asked, "Is this some kind of demon thing?" MC clarified, "No, it's not a demon. It's just hot spring water. Now hurry and direct it over there." She complied. MC asked if it was her first time seeing hot water coming out of the ground. She nodded. And MC explained, "It's called hot spring water. Deep underground, the temperature gets really high and the heat warms the underground water." Hein curiously asked if he had dug and checked it himself. Memsak replied, "No, but someone else confirmed it for me." He added, "Anyway, it allows us to get hot water easily, which is totally awesome." Hein asked, "Does awesome mean something good?" MC replied, "Exactly. It's a good thing. Now we should dip our feet before the water cools down." As they dipped their feet into the pond sitting close to each other, Nymph setting clum into "This feels great." MC advised her to rub her legs with her hands. Hisam did so and remarked, "It's so slippery, almost like there's soap on it." MC explained, "Hot spring water has minerals. It's full of beneficial elements, which is why it feels so good." Hein asked, "So, it's better than hitting a jackpot?" MC smiled and then asked if she had finished making the lake. Hein replied that it had been really hard as she had wandered all over the estate to create the river and lake. MC couldn't even imagine the effort. He acknowledged her hard work by complimenting her. Then she mentioned that she had repaid the favor he previously spoke of. Hein replied affirmatively, but her expression suddenly changed. MC noticed and asked why she suddenly looked so down. She then replied that even though she had repaid the favor, she still wanted to stay by his side. MC responded to Hein, who was waiting for his answer, with, "Of course," and abruptly added, "How many times do I need to tell you, the hills where the elves live are practically my land?" Hein asked why, and MC replied that he had decided to make it that way. The scene shifted to the town. MC was in the cart and inquired why it was so crowded. Lucas responded that it seemed the shopkeeper had been promoting something crazy. MC asked about the promotion. Lucas explained that the shopkeeper was apparently moving back and forth between Mielas and Ober City, spreading the word about the lottery. The townspeople were gossiping about how lottery tickets were being issued at the Bloom estate. Everyone was shocked to hear it. They discussed how people could win up to 20 gold coins with just one copper coin. Buzz was causing people to flock there in droves. It seemed that even those who couldn't find a place in Med City had started pooling funds. MC, surprised, remarked that they had come all the way from Med State. Lucas mentioned that the population of Med State had grown by more than 10,000 over the past 3 years, so the Caint was encouraging people to move there. MC nodded in understanding and mentioned that he had also heard about a noble couple who had just moved to Sunflower Village. Lucas confirmed, adding that they were supposed to introduce themselves that day. MC suggested they should head back shortly. After the couple arrived to greet him, the man introduced himself as Vishant Alan Frost, and the woman introduced herself as Sylvia Riddell. MC recognized the Riddell name as belonging to one of the most influential families in the northern region. He deduced that this was why she hadn't taken her husband's surname. MC expressed his pleasure in meeting her and addressed her as Lady Riddell, introducing himself as Baron Issue Bloom. Lady Riddell remarked that MC must be familiar with her family. MC replied, "Of course. Can there be anyone in the Empire who hasn't heard about the Riddell family?" She explained that she and her husband planned to quietly spend their twilight years there and were looking forward to working with him. MC agreed and told them to inform him anytime if something bothered them. The lady assured him that it was fine and if there was any discomfort they would adapt and deal with it. The couple then took their leave, and MC wished them well. Lucas reminded MC not to forget about the outing planned for that afternoon. MC reassured him, saying he wouldn't forget and should probably pay more attention to his outfit. Lucas agreed, noting that it was the day they were announcing the lottery winners for the first time, and remarked that they had something special for the occasion. A finely embroidered golden pattern, crafted by a master artist. MC instructed Lucas not to make it too flashy. Lucas informed him it was time to head to Square. MC agreed. A large crowd had already gathered, and the announcer explained that the first lottery was exclusive to territorial residents, with prize money totaling 106 gold. He added that the Lord himself would draw the winner. MC reached into the box, thought to himself that he would go with this one, and handed over the selected ticket to the announcer. The announcer revealed the winning number as 135, and congratulated the winner amidst applause. The young girl in the crowd realized she had won and rushed home, calling for her mother. Her mother asked why she was making such a fuss. The girl explained excitedly that she wasn't making a fuss. She had won the lottery. When her mother inquired about the lottery, the girl reminded her that she had mentioned it before. She explained that the Lord had started a lottery system and with her ticket she had won 126 gold, making them rich. Her mother questioned whether 126 gold had simply appeared out of nowhere. The girl proudly explained that it hadn't. She had bought a ticket. She suggested they stop farming and instead run an inn, as she had noticed a notice in the square seeking someone to manage one. She pointed out that her mother was great at cooking and could make good beer too. Her mother, skeptical, asked where the 126 gold was. The girl admitted she hadn't collected it yet because the square was too crowded. Her daughter raised concerns about keeping 226 gold in a house with just 2 women. The mother understood her point. Then the daughter suggested they rent an inn instead of building one as the notice recommended. She added that with 126 gold they wouldn't need to worry about food for at least 5 years. Farming alone as 2 women would only keep them in poverty. Her mother, surprised, eventually told her daughter to give it a shot. Meanwhile, MC was walking with Hein accompanied by Kirky. He called for Karuki and asked how much they had spent since arriving in the territory. Kirky reported that they had spent 20,000 gold on road resistance efforts, commercial districts, public facilities, and the noble house, totaling 87,000 gold. MC then inquired about their monthly revenue. Groki explained that they had received notice from the tax office reporting revenue of 84,000 gold. MC felt relieved, realizing they were bringing in a significant amount of money while having spent only about a month's worth of income. At this rate, he thought, it felt like they were striking endless gold mines. MC remembered something and asked Karuki about the inn, stating that he would like to leave it to someone skilled in cooking. He emphasized the need for careful preparation since the international market would open in Medi in June. Karuki agreed and MC asked him to call Yorka later. Han suddenly moved ahead. MC, confused, called out to her and asked what was wrong. Waiting for her response, MC questioned Han why she was walking unusually fast and asked her to slow down so they could walk together. Han turned to look at him with a striking gaze. Sensing something was off, MC asked if she was upset and what was going on. Frustrated, he turned to Karuki, asking if he had done something wrong and what they had just been talking about. Karuki replied that he had mentioned visiting Mino and Korka. MC then asked if she didn't dislike them. Karuki speculated that perhaps Han was frustrated by their slow pace. MC dismissed the idea, commenting that she actually liked walking slowly. Reina called out to MC, addressing him as Lord. MC, noticing her tone, asked if Hein wasn't feeling well. She replied that Hein was fine and that she had been really excited about the walk. MC, puzzled, asked why she was acting that way. Reina clarified that it was because he kept talking about work. MC grabbed her shoulders and called her name. Reina in turn reflected on how clueless MC was about such things. Hanian on the other side grew more irritated, wondering why he had even suggested the walk in the first place. Grabbing her hand, Emmy asked if she was upset because he had been talking about work after asking her out for a walk. He admitted his fault, saying he was wrong. Hanian, glaring at him, retorted that someone as rude and annoying as him had no right to be called Oppa. Only someone like Edro deserved that title. Taken aback, MC asked why she was suddenly bringing up Edro. Himane, still furious, replied that a guy with no manners like MC could not deserve to be called Oppa. MC promised to be more considerate and asked for her forgiveness. Reluctantly, Heen agreed, saying just once. MC smiled and remarked that he knew Heen didn't hold grudges. He then told her about a lookout he had built nearby and suggested they check it out. Heen agreed, and MC added that afterward they could paint together using the view as a background. Heenane smiled, saying that sounded great. Later in the mansion, Karuki was reading a letter. He informed MC that 12 people had applied to manage the inn. MC, surprised, asked if running an inn was that popular, mentioning that he had heard even someone from a nearby city had also applied. He inquired about the application process. Karuki explained that serfs were restricted by movement laws and couldn't apply, but citizens with the Lord's permission could move freely. MC proposed wrapping up the interviews and reviewing the candidates together. Karuki agreed and suggested heading out to the interviews. MC met the applicants, who greeted him respectfully. Sitting down, MC requested each of them to bring a sample dish for the inn. Everyone agreed enthusiastically, and soon a variety of fabulous dishes were presented before him. MC eagerly tasted the first dish, noting the tender shrimp cooked to perfection and the strong, flavorful broth. However, the shrimp was a bit too fancy for an inn menu. Suddenly his attention shifted to another dish, black bean stew. Curious, he asked about it and wondered who had made such an unconventional choice. He was initially skeptical, thinking it was too simple for nobles, but decided to try it. As MC tasted the stew, he was astonished by its rich flavor. The thoroughly boiled, soft and creamy beans paired perfectly with the pork bits and light vegetable broth. He thought the dish was incredible and noted that its inexpensive ingredients made it ideal for the inn menu. After sampling the other dishes, MC praised the efforts of all the applicants but announced that only those who passed would move forward for interviews. Karuki then escorted the chosen candidates to the reception room one by one. When the mother-daughter pair arrived, the mother introduced herself as Anko and the girl as Tiffany. MC invited them to sit, but the girl hesitated, worried that her dirty clothes might stain the sofa. MC reassured her, saying the sofa cover could be washed, and encouraged them to sit. Once seated, MC mentioned the black bean stew and how it had caught him off guard. Tiffany thought that she had begged her mother not to use black beans and assumed MC had called them to scold them. Then tears started falling from her eyes. Surprised, MC asked why she was crying. Tiffany explained that nobles often saw the color black as unpleasant, and she assumed the dish had offended him. Shocked by her assumption, MC clarified that he was impressed by the stew's flavor and wanted to compliment them. Anko scolded her daughter, lightly hitting her on the head and reprimanding her for such behavior in front of the Lord. Lucas stepped forward, offering Tiffany a handkerchief to dry her tears. Tiffany wiped her eyes with it, thanking Lucas and commenting on how soft and nice it felt. MC intervened, suggesting they continue their discussion about the black bean stew. Anko, Tiffany's mother, explained that the stew was a family recipe passed down through generations. She described how they used black beans as the base, simmering leftover ingredients until everything was fully cooked. She mentioned that the longer the stew simmered, the better it tasted. It was kept on medium heat and parsley was added as a garnish before serving. When MC asked about the seasoning, Anko replied that she only used salt. MC clapped in admiration, expressing his delight with the dish and announced that Anko and Tiffany would manage one of the inns in the shopping district. Overjoyed, Anko eagerly agreed and Tiffany, equally excited, thanked MC. Tiffany then asked if they could choose the name of the inn themselves. MC assured them they could. Tiffany declared that it would be Tiffany and Anko Inn. As the mother and daughter left, their bright smiles lingered in the air. Lucas remarked that Tiffany had beautiful eyes and Karuki agreed, adding that she was a very beautiful woman. Lucas teased Karuki, saying Tiffany was too young to be called a woman. When Karuki corrected him, pointing out that Anko was a mother, Lucas clarified he had been talking about Tiffany's eyes. He playfully asked Karuki if he was interested in Anko, to which Karuki dismissed the conversation and walked away. Lucas, undeterred, joked about Karuki becoming his father-in-law and called him butler. Karuki retorted that he would never want a son-in-law like Lucas. Lucas then declared he would take charge of managing the Tiffany and Anko Inn, but Karuki reminded him that business matters fell under his jurisdiction, leaving Lucas to grumble about the unfairness of it all. Later in the mansion, Reina visited MC. Sitting down, she revealed troubling news about the April International Market, which was traditionally hosted by the Perth family. She explained that merchants from the Min Empire were refusing to attend the Perth International Market. MC was shocked by this. The scene shifted to a tea gathering. Sam remarked that the fine silk would be ready by June and expressed his intent to showcase it at the Medi International Market. One fellow implied that the Perth family's influence was all over the Erman Empire. Sam replied that it was all in the past. Things had changed, and the Medi family stood at the heart of a new era. Everyone gossiped there about the Medi seal and revealed that they were nobles like them from the merchant lineage. A person remarked that the Mian Empire had undergone major changes. Sakharim then noted that Irman nobles from military backgrounds were looked down upon, which was the reason he had thought of supporting the Medi family. Another person remarked that the Perth family and the Largo family used to look down upon merchants. Another person added that Elder Siam, with his time of service alone, had become one of the most trusted vassals acknowledged by His Majesty the Emperor, and there was no need to always receive such attention. Treatment from foreign nobles, who were not even part of the royal family, was not required. Sakharim advised them that if they needed silk for trade in the future, they should reach out to Count Miz, who was aligned with Baron Issy. As for high-quality gemstones, Sakharim thought it best to keep that information to himself for now. Meanwhile, in a luxurious room, a noblewoman discussed the upcoming market. She noted the Mountisa family's expected attendance at the Perth family's international market. Another lady praised it while someone else inquired about the grandeur of their eldest son's endeavors. Suddenly, one speculated on the Boomer family's role as benefactors. Remarking to Mrs. Perth, she responded in agreement, thinking to herself how, thanks to those money-obsessed Boomer people, they were almost humiliated because the merchants from the Min Empire refused to participate. Suddenly, a lady inquired about silk or porcelain. Perth responded that maybe the timing wasn't quite right, as they might have encountered typhoons during the voyage. Meanwhile, inside the kitchen, MC was busy preparing a new dessert. Curious chefs gathered around him as he explained that it was candy. If they cooked the syrup at a low temperature, the texture would become soft. Coating it in dark chocolate would make a chocolate bar, which could then be cut into small pieces. He handed out samples and the chefs were amazed by the soft texture and rich nutty flavor. They eagerly discussed adding it to the bakery menu, predicting it would become a popular item. MC smiled, feeling satisfied but also thinking he might have revealed too much. MC told Seth that once they were able to make it properly, they could add it as a new item in the bakery. Seth remarked that it could become the most popular product. As all the people in the kitchen discussed its taste and how amazing it was, MC asked Seth to see him for a moment. Casually, he asked Seth how Marang was doing since she got pregnant. Seth smiled and replied that she cursed him 100 times a day. Shocked, MC asked if it might be tough. Seth admitted she often complained about feeling a weight pressing on her chest, but added that she was happier overall. He beamed as he shared that their baby was kicking. MC was delighted by the news. Seth then inquired about a box he had received and opened it to find a key. MC explained that it was the key to their new home. Seth thanked MC with heartfelt sincerity, addressing him as Lord and repeating that it was his greatest fortune to have met him. MC shook his head, patted Seth's shoulder and reassured him that he had made a promise, so there was no need for him to feel burdened. Everything they needed was already prepared. They could move in and start living right away. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Seth thanked MC again. MC smiled, delighted by his response. The scene shifted to a sunny day, showing a newly paved road. Two foreigners on horseback observed the changes, commenting that the road had been paved, suspecting that Count Medi might have been involved. One remarked that on their last visit, there were no signs of such developments. One of them suggested staying in the area to observe the situation further. Another addressed him as father, agreeing to it. As they proceeded, one of them noticed knights stationed nearby at the entrance. To avoid suspicion, they headed to the other side and cast a spell, spotting Hein and Edro in the distance. One of the travelers questioned if they were human or from another race. The other scolded her, indicating that if they were human, they would appear exactly like that. Suddenly, Hein sensed their presence and called out, "Who's there?" The travelers revealed themselves and introduced themselves as mages. One of them, a young girl, assured Hein that they posed no threat. Hein turned to me for approval. Surprised but intrigued, he agreed to meet them. The older elf introduced himself as Volcano, a magical engineer, while the younger one introduced herself as Windy, a fire mage. Hein introduced herself as a water mage, and Adro, also known as Adro Goldson, was a plant mage. Finally, Hein introduced MP as Isu Bloom, the lord of the estate that granted the hill where the elves were located. Volcano greeted MC respectfully, though they were visibly surprised to meet him. Wendy asked me directly if he truly intended to give the place to the elves without exploiting them as the emperor had done. Her father scolded her for being rude, lightly hitting her on the forehead. Wendy protested, but her father insisted that she was too young and didn't know the appropriate way to say it. Hein intervened, vouching for MC by remarking that Baron Bloom wasn't like that. She herself had watched him closely and trusted him completely. Hein handed Wendy a chocolate bar. Wendy hesitated and asked what it was, prompting Hein to tease her, asking if she thought it was poisoned. Volcano urged Wendy to thank Hein and accept the treat. Wendy took a bite and was immediately delighted, exclaiming, "What on earth is that?" Hein explained that it was a chocolate bar that MC had created. Wendy eagerly asked if she could live there, and MC gladly replied, "Of course." As Wendy listened, her eyes filled with tears. MC asked gently why she was crying. Volcano explained that they had endured much hardship wandering from place to place, and his daughter was likely crying out of happiness. MC was moved by their story. MC suggested they come to the Lord's Manor to rest and take a bath. Volcano agreed, expressing gratitude for the hospitality. Not long after, Volcano returned with a wooden box containing magical capsules. These bright, glowing red and yellow spheres were designed for various uses, such as replacing candles. Some capsules even combined multiple magical properties. However, the problem was that the imperial family considered them illegal, making official sales of these items difficult. Later, as MC and Hein walked through the garden, MC admired the care Edro had put into the greenery. Hein agreed, noting that Edro was unmatched in gardening across the empire. She commented on the beauty of the path illuminated by magical lights. MC remarked that they were street lamps, and added that with a bit more magic, they could create something even more remarkable. Hein replied that forcing others could backfire, just as the imperial family's policies had alienated the elves. MC explained that this was why he avoided asking for favors. Hein praised him, calling him a great leader. MC teased her. "Isn't she complimenting me?" Hein grew quiet. MC asked if she was ignoring him. Changing the subject, Hein noted how the street lamps made it difficult to see the stars. MC suggested they move to a darker area for better stargazing. When Hein questioned his intentions, MC explained it was just to see the stars. MC pinched her face, teasing her. "What are you thinking?" Hein quickly commanded him to let go. MC smirked and asked if she had any weird thoughts. Meanwhile, Lucas got ready in a three-piece suit and looked at himself in the mirror. He smiled and ran to the door. Tiffany herself opened the door and welcomed Lucas. He greeted her with a smile. Tiffany addressed him as a butler and asked if he had come for dinner. He confirmed, and Tiffany instructed him to have a seat, assuring him she would assist him with his order shortly. Lucas agreed. As he looked around, he noticed the head butler. Shocked to see him there, Lucas called out to him, inquiring about the head butler's presence. The head butler explained that he was there to deliver the magical lamps. Lucas remarked that the lamps had already been handed out at the Lord's manor. The head butler responded that Tiffany must have been busy managing the inn, which was why he had taken it upon himself to come there despite it being somewhat late. In an irritated tone, Lucas explained that he had only come to check whether everything was proceeding smoothly since the international market was about to open. Tiffany placed a glass on the table and assured him that the preparations were progressing well, adding that the head butler had been an invaluable help. Lucas teased the head butler, asking what kind of help he had provided. Tiffany explained that the head butler had given guidance on managing inns in the capital, including how much to charge, as they had never visited an inn before. This had proven extremely beneficial. Lucas retorted that he was losing the upper hand. He pointed out that he had lost Kenna because he had hesitated, as she was exiled over the incident. Changing the subject, Lucas asked if it was possible to try the black bean stew that had been served to the Lord before. Tiffany informed him that the head butler had mentioned staying for dinner, so the stew had already been prepared. She asked for a moment to serve it. Lucas sarcastically asked, "Wasn't he busy?" The head butler replied that he had time to eat dinner. Lucas remarked that since the head butler wasn't present during dinner hours, he must be dining there often. The head butler asked if that was an issue, but Lucas thought to himself that the head butler was likely there to see Tiffany's aunt. When Tiffany brought out the bowls, Lucas casually asked where her aunt was. Tiffany replied that her mother was cleaning the bathroom and asked if Lucas wanted her to call her over. Lucas replied yes, as he wanted a chance to say hello. The head butler questioned why Lucas would call her over while she was cleaning. Lucas gave a thumbs up in response, and the head butler reluctantly relented. Suddenly, MC found herself face to face with her ex in front of an elevator. Both were shocked to see each other. MC invited her ex to her apartment, where the ex confessed she hadn't expected to run into him there. MC asked if she lived nearby, referring to her as sis. She replied, equally surprised, asking if he had been living there as well. MC confirmed, mentioning he had moved in years ago. She was shocked and started to ask him something, but stopped herself. Then she commented that MC must be doing well as the area was known for its high living expenses. She explained that she was there to conduct a makeup workshop for residents. Nefi recalled that she was a beauty YouTuber and asked if she was dating anyone. She replied affirmatively, though Nefi thought to himself that she was likely a mage. He then asked about her love life. She responded that she was also dating someone around her age, whom she had met as a customer. Nefi asked if it was the same guy from the past. She hesitated before asking how far back he was referring to, laughing nervously. She remarked that if she had stayed with that person, she would probably already be married with kids by now. Nefi pressed further asking if she had ended up meeting the person. She admitted that she had met him again after their breakup. MC realized that she had simply moved on from one relationship to another. He concluded that it wasn't something worth dwelling on anymore, since it no longer concerned him. As the conversation shifted, MC handed her a tissue when drops of water fell from her glasses. He remarked that he disliked the table getting wet. She commented that he was still kind to others despite having a girlfriend. MC was taken aback by the statement. She recalled a time when they had a significant argument after drinking with a friend. MC remembered the time he had brought Bandit for a girl who got hurt, emphasizing that he had repeatedly said it was only because the girl was her friend. Uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation, MC stood up and suggested she leave, as he didn't want to discuss the matter further. She agreed, mentioning that she also had plans and needed to get going. After she left, MC sat on his sofa, lost in thought. He realized he had never fought with Hein Nat, even during their slight disagreement over the Mint Choco match. He reflected on Hein's personality. She wasn't particularly warm or friendly, but she knew how to respect boundaries. He admired how she apologized when she was wrong and refrained belittling others with criticism or mockery. With a smile, MC sat up and realized he wanted to see Hein again. As MC approached Heinen's door and knocked gently, he asked if she was awake. Heinen, still in her night clothes and with sleepy eyes, asked for a moment before opening the door. When she appeared, she asked what the matter was. MC presented her with a teddy bear, explaining that it was a gift. Heinen's eyes lit up with excitement as she asked if it was a puppy. MC smiled and replied that it was a stuffed puppy. Since Hein didn't like dogs, he hoped she could use this opportunity to grow closer to them. Hein examined the stuffed animal and exclaimed how soft and fluffy it was. MC commented that if she hugged it while sleeping, it might help her rest better. Heinen thanked him sincerely for his thoughtfulness. MC, slightly taken aback by her gratitude, replied that it wasn't a big deal and told her to get some sleep. She agreed, bade him goodbye, and closed the door. Hein clutched the teddy to her face, marveling at how fluffy it was, and placed it beside her pillow with a smile. The following morning, MC gathered everyone and ensured that all were present. He informed the group that they would be preparing a traditional Korean dish, kimchi. MC explained that radish was a familiar ingredient. They would first separate the radish leaves as they could be used for other purposes, and then wash the radishes thoroughly, peeling off the skin. Duke agreed and began their tasks. With so many hands, the work progressed swiftly. MC explained that the dish made with diced radish was called kakukdugi, while the one made with green onions was known as green onion kimchi. After preparing the kimchi, they would boil pork to enjoy it together. MC remarked that it had been ages since they'd all had a barbecue party. The group cheered in agreement and expressed their love for MC, to which he responded with a smile, urging them to keep working. As the preparations continued, MC called Seth over. Seth approached and asked what MC needed. MC requested that he bring over a bucket of diced radish kimchi. Seth complied but inquired what MC intended to do with it. MC revealed that he was planning to make oyster kimchi. Seth was shocked, exclaiming that oysters were expensive. MC dismissed the concern, noting that he had enough money. He instructed Seth to clean the oysters and add them to the kimchi. Seth agreed, and the task continued. Once everything was prepared, the group gathered at the table. MC demonstrated how to eat the dish, layering a slice of meat, a piece of diced radish kimchi, and a bit of oyster together in one bite. He encouraged everyone to dig in. The group thanked him for the meal, marveling at the opportunity to try oysters, something they never thought they would experience. One person mistakenly referred to the radish kimchi as salad, prompting another to correct him. MC then asked Seth to bring some makgeolli, a traditional Korean rice wine. Everyone complimented MC, declaring him the best. Later, MC inspected the inn's interior and was amazed by its luxurious appearance. The head butler explained that, per MC's request, they had designed the interior to be as elegant as possible. Although smaller in scale than the Bean-a-Tree Inn, the facilities were far superior. The kitchen, in particular, was state-of-the-art, and a point of pride for the Bloom territory. The inn featured 50 rooms, 3 of which included private baths. MC suggested putting up a sign to officially name it, the Bloom Hotel. When asked about the term hotel, MC explained that in his hometown, accommodations offering elegant services were called hotels. For clarity, he proposed including the phrase luxurious inn on the business cards. The head butler approved the idea and asked about the status of new hires. MC inquired about the new recruits. The head butler informed MC that the new hires were waiting outside. MC instructed him to bring them in. The new hires lined up in an orderly fashion, and MC addressed them. He reminded everyone that the international market was just 2 weeks away, and they all acknowledged the urgency. MC encouraged them to prepare as best they could, and they responded enthusiastically. MC called Corky to bring out the uniforms, which consisted of chef's attire and maid dresses. The new hires were given their uniforms, and MC emphasized the importance of wearing name tags at all times while working. He stressed the value of a smile and reminded them to seek help from the manager if any issues arose. MC then announced the need for a head chef for the hotel and invited anyone interested to step forward. As the group murmured among themselves, Seth volunteered. MC, surprised, called out to Seth for clarification. Seth explained that the Bloom Hotel was a luxurious inn, correcting himself to say hotel, and that most guests would likely be nobles. He further elaborated that while his family didn't have a separate guest house, they often hosted the Lord's guests, so he was confident in his ability to serve properly. Seth suggested that if the hotel became known for its delicious food, it would attract more nobles to Sunflower Village for retreats. MC agreed, adding that if the hotel was known for serving dishes crafted by a winner of the Royal Sushi competition, it would surely become a destination worth visiting. The group was stunned to hear about Seth's prestigious background. MC reiterated the importance of a warm greeting and a smile, instructing the team to prepare the finest rooms as they would soon host Count Mediz and her daughter. The staff agreed and began their preparations. The next day, when Count Mediz and her daughter arrived, MC personally welcomed them. He expressed gratitude for their visit and invited them to step inside. The Count and his daughter entered the mansion. The Count observed the interior and remarked that it looked similar to how it had been before. MC was surprised by this observation. The Count commented that the expensive glass windows and lavish decorations must have been quite notable. The Count remarked that a baron deserved to enjoy such luxuries. MC hesitantly agreed. Then the Count inquired about the reason he had been invited. Messi replied that he wanted to give him something. The Count appeared puzzled and asked for clarification. When the Count opened the box in front of him, it revealed several capsules. Inspecting them, the Count noted that they looked like orbs created by mages. Messi confirmed this and asked if the Count was familiar with Mage Ashang. The Count nodded. Messi explained that she, along with some other mages, had crafted the capsules. MC considered whether it was necessary to bring up the mana subject. Instead, he asked the Count if he was familiar with the plant Mage Edro. The Count admitted he wasn't sure. MC then commented that it seemed JJ, the Count's daughter, had taken an interest in the matter. The Count joyfully asked if that was true, to which MC confirmed. The Count shared that Gigi had made quite a fuss when he once suggested marrying her into a mage family. Despite being his daughter, he found her difficult to understand. MC suggested that perhaps she simply disliked the idea of a political marriage. The Count replied that it was a relief to know that she had someone she liked. Changing the subject, the Count mentioned that MC's booth at the international market had already been reserved. MC expressed his gratitude, but the Count insisted there was no need to thank him. He explained that the market would focus on their faction. The Count then asked MC about the lottery system, which he found intriguing. He mentioned that he had purchased 200 instant lottery tickets, spending 2 gold coins but winning only 3 prizes worth 5 silver coins. MC thanked him for the feedback, adding that the fund had grown by 1 gold and 5 silver coins. The Count remarked that it had been a long time since he had seen such an aggressive sales tactic, which he found quite novel. He shared that his residents had been talking about the lottery, which piqued his curiosity. He tried it himself and found it interesting. He expressed his desire to introduce the lottery in his own territory. Minz-e reflected on this, thinking that if Madis with its population of 70,000 started issuing lotteries, the sales would far exceed those in his own territory. He worried it might cut off the flow of outsiders who came to his area to buy lottery tickets. The Count, however, assured him that he wouldn't implement the idea immediately. He added that the original purpose of the lottery was to encourage population growth, and once MC's territory grew to a satisfactory level, that would be enough. Smiling, MC replied that the Count was free to open a lottery shop whenever he liked. The Count remarked on MC's assurance that he could attract people without monopolizing the lottery system. MC mused that there were no patent laws in the Ermen Empire, so even if he wanted to, he couldn't stop the Count. Changing topics, MC told the Count that there was something else he wanted to mention. Before he left for the inn, the Count asked what it was. MC introduced the new farming method and explained its principles. The Count seemed puzzled, noting that instead of dividing the land into 3 parts, MC proposed dividing it into 4. MC suggested that if the Count was uncertain, he could observe the results over a few years before implementing it. He promised to take the initiative and demonstrate its effectiveness first. The Count asked if it was truly okay to give away such valuable information. MC admitted that he believed a stronger medes would benefit him as well. Understanding his perspective, the Count shared that once the international market concluded, he planned to begin developing the port. MC noted that the workforce for the port development would likely pass through his territory, and the Count agreed. MC assured him that they wouldn't charge tolls for workers involved in the project. The Count expressed his appreciation and prepared to head to the inn. At the inn, the Count's daughter, Jay, was delighted by the sight of sunflowers in full bloom. She exclaimed that she had never seen so many blooming at once. As she looked around, she marveled at the flowers, the mansion, and everything else, declaring that it was the most amazing inn she had ever seen. Amacy asked her opinion about the plant that repelled mosquitoes. She enthusiastically called it incredible and mentioned that even the canopy plants were impressive. Amacy asked her to calm down, and the Count remarked on the effort Amacy must have put into the place in such a short time. Suddenly, Jay placed a hand on MC's shoulder, addressing him coldly as Baron, and remarked that it would be great if there was something to eat. MC, startled, replied that he had prepared some food for the international market and offered to show it to her. Jay eagerly agreed, and MC brought out the dishes. MC presented 5 dishes: hot dogs, soft tira, chicken skewers, and fried dumplings. The Count noted that some of the dishes were unfamiliar. MC awkwardly explained that he had tried educating his residents about these dishes, but they were less popular than expected. He had even arranged for them to take loans from the bank, assuming money might have been the issue. Jay, returning with her characteristic sharpness, declared that the residents had made a mistake because the food was delicious, which again startled MC. She pointed out one dish she found particularly tasty, explaining that the salty sausage and plain rice cake complemented each other perfectly. She also commented on another dish, praising its thin, crispy dough and flavorful filling. MC realized that she really was the Count's sibling. The Count asked MC if Jay's approval wasn't enough proof of the food's quality. He added that if these dishes succeeded in the international market, everyone would want to learn how to make them, so MC didn't need to worry about it. MC looked back toward the dishes with satisfaction.